New Russian strikes on Ukraine, the largest aerial assault since July, and then just a few minutes ago, Moscow refused to commit to a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, though it's stopping short of ruling out any further talks. Now, the meeting was supposed to be one of the major takeaways, if not the major takeaway from the historic White House summit yesterday. President Trump even posted that he's working on setting up that bilateral meeting between Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. But again, just a few minutes ago, the Kremlin said it is only prepared to, quote, raise the level of the delegation it sends to meetings with Ukraine. And that really is the key this morning, to try to determine what the concrete takeaways were from what were very visibly good feelings at this White House summit yesterday between President Trump, President Zelensky, and all these key European leaders you're seeing on the screen right now. They left with good feelings. The question this morning now is, will they get good results? Let's go right to CNN's Elena Trine at the White House for the latest. The president continues to say he's setting up the meeting. The Russians continue to throw a little bit of cold water on that, Elena.
Yeah, I mean, it was very clear heading into yesterday, John, that was the goal for the president specifically, President Trump, I should say. He wanted to be able to get another meeting on the books that included Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sitting down in the same room. And you saw him, he did have a 40-minute phone call yesterday in the Oval Office with the Russian leader. He actually paused his ongoing meeting with the 7 European leaders and Zelensky taking place at the White House to have that conversation with Putin. And then I talked to a White House official who told me he then invited that group back in, the European leaders and Zelensky, to the Oval Office after he wrapped that call to fill them in on what was discussed. And then, of course, we saw his Truth Social post saying that he is making arrangements for a bilateral meeting first between Zelensky and Putin, and then hopefully a trilateral meeting after that. But you're exactly right. There was a lot of skepticism of whether that is actually possible, when it could take place, where it would take place, but if the Russians are even willing to agree to that. And I think the key thing here is we're hearing them throw cold water on this idea. I remind you that Putin does not view Zelensky as his equal. He was the one who started the war that invaded Ukraine illegally. And that's really been a problem throughout this entire time. However, there's also not just the president here, but a lot of other top advisors to him are telling him that they believe that the only way to get this solved and to end the war is to have the two of them sit down in the same room and discuss this. And that's kind of what we heard from Bessent this morning when he was on CNBC. Take a listen.
He invited President Putin to land that the Russians used to own. He displayed a huge amount of military hardware and then did a flyover. It was kind of like inviting your uncontrollable neighbor to your house and showing him your gun case. And my strong belief is that there will be a bilateral meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky. And that's the only way to end this conflict, is to get the two sides talking.
I mean, what a way to describe Vladimir Putin coming to American soil. Hearing the Treasury Secretary say it's like inviting your uncontrollable neighbor to your house and showing them your gun case. So all to say, though, you could hear Bessent there adding that he believes this is the only way to get Putin and Zelensky in the same room and try to end the war by getting the two sides to talk. But one other thing, John, before we go, I just want to reiterate to you what we heard from a number of European leaders yesterday about being one of the most important things to come out of this summit. And that was having the United States and having President Donald Trump himself saying he wants to help when it comes to security guarantees for Ukraine. A lot of them, Starmer, Mark Rutte, the UK Prime Minister and the NATO Secretary General, all saying that was a breakthrough from Monday.
Again, yeah, that one of the other concrete takeaway were the discussions about security talks. Again, we're waiting to see what develops. Oftentimes the meetings, they're not happening until they are. So we'll just have to wait and see. Elena Trine, thank you very much. Kate?
A great point. And even as the Kremlin is refusing to commit right now to a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, security guarantees, as John was just saying, are at the center of talks for top European leaders still today. The French president and the British prime minister are leading talks this morning for the 30 nations who are part of what they call and consider themselves the coalition of the willing. CNN's Claire Sebastian's in London. She's been tracking this one for us. And what are you learning about what's coming out of this now, another round of meetings today?
Well, look, I think what's clear, Kate, is there is a very long road ahead to determine exactly how to deter future Russian aggression. There were a lot of positive noises coming out of the White House meeting yesterday. It is not nothing at all that the US is now openly embracing the idea of being somehow involved in these security guarantees, although we don't know exactly how. As of yet, this is something that European leaders have been pushing for all along. So listen to the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer talking about this in a video he posted today.
Breakthrough when it comes to security guarantees, with now the coalition of willing countries, that's the 30 or so countries that we've been coordinating for some months on security guarantees, now working with the US at pace to work up those security guarantees. These guarantees will ensure that if there is a peace, if there is a deal, then we hold to it and there isn't further conflict.
So what do we mean by security guarantees? Well, it could be a number of different things. The French President Emmanuel Macron coming out of the White House yesterday talking about, no limits on Ukraine's armed forces. Russia, of course, has demanded in the past that there should be limits on the size of Ukraine's army, which is now the second biggest in Europe after Russia's. He talked about reassurance forces in the land, air and sea. There are certain countries, for example, the UK, that have already said they might be willing to put boots on the ground. And President Trump didn't explicitly rule out US peacekeepers being involved in the Oval Office meeting yesterday, though he was pretty vague about that. So the work continues. There's also a European Council meeting this morning, EU heads of state, another very important frenzied day of diplomacy here in Europe. Kate?
Sure does seem it. So, Claire, thank you so much for following it for us. John?
All right, with us now is Congressman Mike Quigley from Illinois, a Democrat and the co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. The news we heard just a few minutes ago, the Kremlin, Sergei Lavrov, really a senior Kremlin official, refusing to commit to the bilateral meeting between Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky. What is that refusal, at least as of now, what does that tell you?
The Chancellor of Germany was right. Unless there's a ceasefire forced upon Putin, there's not going to be any other meetings. And if there are meetings, what will they actually contribute? The fact of the matter is they're missing the point here. Putin understands strength, not talks, not repercussions put off concessions made before negotiations begin. We're honestly seeing the beginning of a new era. I guess you'd call it the Trump doctrine. The U.S. will be tough until it's not. And we will reward invaders of a sovereign democratic country with land, and we won't hold that person responsible for the war crimes. He doesn't understand weakness. He understands strength, and we're not even using the assets we have toward that end.
You did hear the British Prime Minister call it a breakthrough in terms of the discussions on security guarantees. Do you think security guarantees after some kind of a deal would provide Ukraine with some of the safety that they feel like they need?
I guess I wouldn't blame Ukraine to never trust this unless it means NATO, right? They go back to Budapest. We're reminding ourselves that Putin has never kept a promise in Eastern Europe, and he never will. To them, I guess I understand the Ukrainians to believe that here we are going to reward Putin for his land acquisitions, and we'll probably see Putin rebuild his army, rebuild his economy, wait another year or two, and then go and finish the job. If anything, Ukraine has earned the right to be in NATO. They have fought on the front lines of democracy. All the reasons we fought the Second World War and formed the United Nations, we're now saying, gee, I hope he shows up. And gee, maybe we can get these concessions and maybe we can get guarantees. I was on your program at the start of the war. We were asked, what would constitute victory for Ukraine? It had to do with rebuilding Ukraine, getting their territory back, holding Putin accountable, and security guarantees, meaning NATO. Maybe we get one out of those four. No one can call that a victory. It's really appeasement. We want peace, not the worst kind of appeasement.
How much U.S. involvement would you support in some of these security guarantees?
We have to use our assets. The first thing we have to do is seize the frozen Russian assets that are in Europe, 300 billion, 5 to 8 roughly in the United States, and use that to help Ukraine defend itself. And we have to put the sanctions in place, which, by the way, Republicans and Democrats solidly agree on. It's rare that we see that happen. If you want something like guarantees and you want a uniformity there, it has to come with strength. Here I am, the liberal Democrat from Chicago, but the lessons from 1939 are coming back. The voices of 39 are coming back, weak and strong. Chamberlain coming back saying, some sort of land swap, some sort of appeasement gives us peace in our time. That's not what Hitler understood. It's not what Putin understands. I truly want peace. But if you go at it begging and pleading a brutal murderer, it's not going to work.
Congressman Mike Quigley from Illinois, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
I am not a war expert. I'm a lowly United States Marine Corps Lance Corporal, retired. Okay? That's all I got. But I just want to know. I just want to know. Can we not bomb the Kremlin? Can we not bomb Moscow? Just flatten Moscow. Like I said, give out pamphlets and text messages to the people that are, for getting out of Russia and can't and want to live in a different place in the world other than hell frozen over. Bomb the place. Just bomb. See what Putin does. Hit him and kill him too in the presidential what is it called? I can't remember. It's presidential something. It's like a ministry or something. I can't remember. Is it St. Basil's or St. Basil's Cathedral? The one that looked like cakes, it's all colorful. Yeah, just bomb that place. Just bomb more to hell. I know they know something I don't know. They have more diplomacy. Yeah, he flew BF-52s over Putin's head. That's true, and it was flanked by fighter jets. So I think he's gonna really catch hell, Putin. I think he's really gonna see the severe errors of his ways. That's what I think is gonna happen. He's gonna see. He's gonna learn how to kowtow. He's gonna learn how to bow and scrape. He's gonna learn all these things. So that's just what I think. That's just my opinion. Don't take it to heart. I mean, they had a meeting, but it really didn't go anywhere. It was inconclusive. It was like a stalemate almost. Not like they were trying to war against each other, but trying to find an agreement, a way out of this very tragic, vicious, ugly situation in Ukraine. And that's what it's all about. Let me give you another video.
to have the president of Ukraine with us. We've had a lot of good discussions, a lot of good talks, and I think progress is being made, very, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while ago with the president of Russia. And I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it. And today's meeting is very important. We have, I guess, the seven very powerful leaders from Europe. And we're going to be meeting with them right after this meeting. And thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you. And using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, abducted children, and my wife, she, First Lady of Ukraine, she gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
Oh, I want it.
Yeah. So we are saying this sensitive topic, yeah, please. And thanks to our partners and that you supported this format, that after our meeting we can have leaders who are around us, UK and France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO, I mean all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them. Thank you very much for invitation.
Thank you very much for being here.
President Trump.
Do you think it's fair?
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, President Zelensky, you say in a post on X today, Russia must end this war, which it itself started. President Trump, you say President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, which is it?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we're going to have a meeting. I think if everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat. And I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelensky here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be, look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
And to that point, President Zelensky, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple of years, or are you going to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support, American and European partners, and we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, of personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Mr. President,
if the peace deal will be achieved, are you going to be willing to send American peacekeepers to Ukraine?
Well, we're going to work with Ukraine. We're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, the peace is going to stay long term. This is very long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again. We're going to make sure that everything's good. We'll work with Russia. We're going to work with Ukraine, and we're going to make sure it works. And I think if we can get to peace, it's going to work. I have no doubt about it.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you roll that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, if the war is going to end, when it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one. A lot of reasons for it, and they'll be talking about it for a long time. But they'll be talking about the others. Look, India, Pakistan. We're talking about the big places. When you look at, you just take a look at some of these wars. You go to Africa and take a look at that. Rwanda and the Congo. Republic of the Congo. That's been going on for 31 years. And so we've done a total of 6, and we really have 6, not including the fact that we obliterated, and it turned out to be a total obliteration, the nuclear, as you said, the future nuclear capability of Iran. And this one, I think we're going to get solved also. I feel confident we're going to get it solved.
Thank you,
Mr. President. Can you tell us about your conversations with European leaders and what they need to see to support an end to the war?
Yeah, well, we're going to be meeting with a great representative group and 7 very powerful, very big countries and great people, all friends of mine and friends of yours. And we're going to have some suggestions made. They want to see peace. They would like to see peace.
President Trump, do you think it's fair for Ukraine and for Russia to achieve a lasting and durable peace if Ukraine cedes its territories that Russia hasn't yet conquered? Do you think it's a fair peace for Ukraine?
We're going to have a lasting peace. Just to answer the first part of your question, we're going to have a lasting peace. I hope it's going to be immediately. I hope it doesn't have to go on.
I got to say something. I'll get back to the video, but good Lord, have mercy upon my soul. This nigga, Trump, says Putin wants the war to end. Does he really want the war to end? He started the war. I think he continues to be on the side of taking as much territory from Ukraine as possible. It just trips me up. What are you saying? Okay, Trump saying, I want this war to end. This gentleman wants the war to end, referring to Volodymyr Zelensky. And I think Putin wants the war to end. What? You want him to not to win? You want the war to end? That's what I meant to say. But like, he started it, and Ukraine and all its allies has to finish it with a swift victory. Not only to, take away from their capacity to make battle, but to crush their soul. Crush their soul. Crush Russia's soul to do something. That's the idea. You can destroy someone's capacity to make war, but it's much more important to crush their soul of battle. That means they don't want to fight anymore. I have to go back, like I said on many occasions. William Tecumseh Sherman, the great general from the 19th century, during the Civil War. He was in one of the last phases of the war, and probably credited to him, he was responsible for ending the Civil War in America. The North and the South. The North crushed the South because of the capitalist leanings of the North and the agrarian attitude of the South. That was the whole thing. They didn't have as much technology. I mean, I'm paraphrasing now. I'm really super paraphrasing. But William Tecumseh Sherman was like, hardly a ball of yarn can you produce. We have railroads. We have buildings that are set up. It's not even anything you can compare. You don't want. I think he said this. You don't want this. You don't know what you're doing. He was very prophetic about it. He was a prophet in that regard. He said, he said that after he wrote this letter, he wept. He cried uncontrollably because he knew that the country is going to spill out into just rivers of blood. It's all it's going to be. Across battle lines, brothers versus brothers, uncles and nephews against each other in the North and the South. And in America's most deadly war, most costly war, over 600,000 people died. And that's in a civil war. We had the repercussions of that war. We had the Jim Crow laws after slavery. Just anyway, some white, not all white people, but some white people just said, we got to do something. We can't just have them walking around willy-nilly. We got to put these vagrancy laws on. We got to get these factories torn up. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm just giving you an example of what can proceed after a war. Or what can follow after a war, excuse me. I'm gonna go back to the video.
And I think people in the whole world is going to be very happy when that's announced.
Mr. President, you posted on social media, Mr. President, a very touching letter from the First Lady. And the letter was hand-delivered to President Putin. And it calls for an end to the war, essentially, because of the children and the children's future. Why did the First Lady feel that letter was necessary? Was it because she believes that Mr. Putin is the aggressor in the war? Is a similar letter being hand-delivered to President Zelensky?
So the First Lady felt very strongly. She's watched the same thing that you watch and that I watch. I see things that you don't get to see, and it's horrible. But when she's got a great love of children, she has a wonderful son that she loves, probably more than anybody, including me. I hate to say it, but she loves her son. She loves children. And she hates to see something like this happening, and that goes for other wars too. I mean, she sees the heartbreak, the parents, the funerals that you see on television. Always funerals. We want to see something other than funerals. No, she felt it was a beautiful letter. It was very well received by him, and she did ask me to say, she would love to see this end. She would love to see it end, and she says it very openly, very proudly, and with great sorrow because so many people have been killed.
Mr. President, last week,
Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, sir. I've got a question for each of you. First of all, Mr. President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good.
I said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's
I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed. You are not.
Maybe yours is much better. Real quickly, upon peace, God willing we get peace, are you open to holding an election in your country?
Yes, of course. We are open for election, yes. We have to do safety circumstances. And a little bit, we need to work in the parliament because during the war you can't have elections, but we can do security. We need, we need a truth, yes. everywhere in the battlefield, in the sky, and the sea. Yeah, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war, you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake.
You like this idea?
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of news, I got a question for you. This sounds insane for me even to ask this, but do you think the American media really doesn't even want a peace deal because they've seen they've been so critical of you every step of the way as you lead the charge for peace?
It's an amazing phenomenon. I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say, I made a bad deal. The level of hatred and animosity is incredible. Not with all. I mean, we have great people up here. We also have terrible people up there that I think are told what to say. But, you know, in solving all of these wars, they don't even write about it. You know, I saw major wars. I saw wars that have been going on for 31, 35, and 37, and a couple of quicker ones. One that was going to go into a full-blown deal very quickly. You know what the one I'm talking about. It was a big one. But they don't even write about that. No matter what I do, no matter what, and you know, this is not anything to do with you. It's probably to your advantage in a certain way. But no matter what I do, no matter what deal I make, from my standpoint, you'll come out good. Maybe President Putin will come out good. But they'll say, Trump was absolutely horrible. It's just it. And I've lived with that for a long time. I've lived with it since just before the first election. I used to get great publicity. Now I get the worst publicity anyone's ever gotten in office, but I won in a landslide, so that people understand they're the only ones that count ultimately. But I've also had great reporters. I've had journalists that are very good. But it's very sad when you do the right thing. As an example, they said, because of the fact that Vladimir Putin came to American soil, this was a tremendous defeat for Donald Trump. No, it was really wonderful that he did it. It was a hard thing for him to do, to be honest with you. It was the opposite of what they said, but they said it. Now, if he didn't come, they'd say that was also bad for Trump. You know, there's no way. And there's just a great dishonesty of the press, and I think that's why it's lost its credibility. You know, its credibility is at an all-time low. We have a thing going on right now in D.C. We went from the most unsafe place anywhere to a place that now friends are calling me up, Democrats are calling me up, and they're saying, sir, I want to thank you. My wife and I went out to dinner last night for the first time in 4 years. And Washington, D.C. is safe. And you did that in 4 days. I'll tell you, it's safe. I had another friend of mine. He has a son who's a great golfer. He's on tour. And he came in fourth yesterday in the big tournament where Scotty Scheffler made the great shot. And he said his son is going to dinner in Washington, D.C. tonight. I said, would you have allowed that to happen a year ago? He said, no way, no way. He said, what you've done is incredible. And I think the people realize it. But the press says, he's a dictator. He's trying to take over. No, all I want is security for our people. But people that haven't gone out to dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2 years are going out to dinner. And the restaurants the last 2 days were busier than they've been in a long time.
So I walked around yesterday with MTG. If you can walk around with DC with MTG and not be attacked, the city is safe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, you warned of what you called severe consequences if a 30-day ceasefire or any type of ceasefire were not agreed to by Russia. Will there be severe consequences? Does that change because
I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But if you look at the 6 deals that we made peace and you know, long-term, long-running wars, I didn't do any ceasefires. I like the concept. You know, I like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately, as opposed to in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it takes. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight. I wish they could stop. I'd like them to stop. But strategically, that could be a disadvantage for one side or the other. But all of these deals I made without even the mention of the words ceasefire.
President Zelensky, are you disappointed that there's no
explain the
ceasefire?
decision to offer Ukraine
ceasefire? That's such a strange term. On October 7th, excuse me, what was it, February? Hold on. I'm thinking about the Israeli war. Hold on. I'm going to look for it real quick. In February 2014, it didn't even give an exact date. It just says February. That was the Crimea, excuse me. February 2022, Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine and began occupying more of the country, starting the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. The war has resulted in a refugee crisis and hundreds of thousands of deaths. This is war. This is war, people. This is war. This is war. This is nothing to play with. I mean, they have their moments of, being very jovial and, they have to keep some semblance of rapport amongst them. Not our war. Well, it's America's war in terms of weaponry, intelligence, fact gathering, implementing new tools and strategies. It is United States war. Are you seeing Avenged Sevenfold? No? What makes you think that, right? But anyway, Trump is just saying, he hasn't mentioned the word ceasefire. But where was the ceasefire in February 2022? Why wasn't there a ceasefire on Russia? Why? I mean, I'm crazy, but it just gets me weird. Like, in February 2022, they should have said, you know what? We were going to bomb y'all, but, we're good. We're not going to send any rockets or missiles your way. We're just going to sit back in the cut, sip on some vodka, and just, have some fun with the girls or something. I just, with the women, the females. That's all I'm thinking. I think, weird thoughts too. We shouldn't have them at all, okay? Are you seeing... 2022, that was under Biden. Yeah, it was under Biden, and so same thing with George W. Bush. He had no role in destroying the Trade Center and the pieces of the Pentagon that were restored and the plane that went down in the field in Pennsylvania. He had nothing to do with it. I mean, I know Jadakiss says it. Why did Bush knock down the towers? You can say what you want. It's amazing. This is part of the country. If that was another country, he'd probably be doing 70 years behind bars, if not flogged, horsewhipped, drawn and quartered, or, tossed from a high building. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now we get to the nuts and bolts of things. Pause. Texas Carnage 817. His comment, now 9/11 was an inside job. He's got his tinfoil football helmet on. He's got a tinfoil football helmet on. And he's thinking, I have all these conspiracisms, but I can't let them out. That's what it's like. It's crazy. 9/11 was not an inside job. Trust me. The CIA at that point was inept. At this point, pretty much is inept too. But it was completely inept during that time. And they had intelligence. A memo went across George W. Bush's desk sometime around like now, 20, what is it going to be? 24 years, almost 24 years ago, 23 years and change. Oh, okay. That's not true though. Right, maybe in the plane. In the planes, that's true. Right. Right with me says, yeah, an inside job because everyone inside died. That's true. For the planes, not everyone inside the World Trade Center died. Those buildings were controlled demolition. Of course. You don't approve of the idea that the intense burning of jet fuel weakened the steel girders and the rest of the support system on each of the buildings. And you have to take into account that the fact that the South Tower was hit second, but it collapsed first. The North Tower collapsed minutes after the South Tower. Why did the building itself fall? Intense heat, more heat. It weakened the structure. It may look like, oh, that was controlled demolition, but it was actually not. And what happened was you had an issue of pancakes. One floor fell on another floor, fell on another floor, fell on another floor, and so on and so forth. Okay, Mr. Energy, he's got a PhD in engineering, I guess. I don't have a PhD in engineering, but I do know someone that has a PhD and was in a former life an engineer. Dr. Jerome Brook. He said that the fire that was generated by the jet fuel weakened the girders, weakened the structural system of each of the buildings, and they could not maintain rigidity. They could not retain the standing up. George Bush was also co-wrote Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Okay. See where you're going right with me. Building 7 was separate from the towers, but it still had structural issues because of the being adjacent to the towers. All right, so we're going into the weeds with this. I'm gonna go back to the video.
Article 5 like security guarantees, but stop short of pushing for their full membership.
Yeah, well, we haven't done anything on that yet. If you look back and you go back long before President Putin, it was always a statement that they would never allow Ukraine into NATO. So that was a statement that was made, but we haven't discussed any of that yet. We're going to be discussing it today, but we will give them very good protection, very good security. That's part of it. And the people that are waiting for us, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out all.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Trump. The United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this war effort in Ukraine. At best, it is a stalemate, and the killing continues. So, President Trump, how much more is the United States willing to give Ukraine? And President Zelensky, how much more do you want?
Well, I'll start off just by saying we're not giving anything now. We're selling weapons. This is something before, I guess the number is well over $300 billion. That was under Joe Biden, a corrupt politician, not a smart man, never was. By the way, go back 40 years. He was not a smart man 40 years ago either. But now he's in particular bad.
Hold up. If that ain't the pot calling the kettle white. Trump is not too bright. He is not a smart person at all. He likes to use big words that make himself sound, very intelligent and everything of that nature. Biden was a nothing. He was like the original Joe Schmo. He was Joe Schmo. So he had average abilities. He was not exceptional. He was just okay. Things just went by. You can pretty much forget about him. I mean, it's not even like it's like Trump. Even when Trump's done, it's like Trump. Just based on the legacy of blunders and hatred and ugliness that he has instilled in this country. But when he attacks other people, it's like, I don't know if it's refreshing or it's just annoying, because it's weird because he attacks Biden in front of people, and I don't think any president really has ever done that before. I don't know, in public, like sitting president. I mean, they talk back and forth in the debates and stuff like that, but in a sense that Trump called out Biden during this press conference, that's pretty, I don't know, it's telling. I'll say that. Okay, Sir Rick James is in the building. Zelensky is arguably the most important political figure of our lifetime. Fact. Rob proves that he's still not as intelligent as Bush. Selena, Trump doesn't have to be smart. Zelensky don't want the war to end. Okay, yes, I think Trump has to be smart. He doesn't have to be a genius. He doesn't have to be brilliant. But you just have to have more smarts than he. You have to think things through. You have to be cognitively aware of everything. You have to be cognizant of whatever you're doing. And I don't think Trump is. I think he just rambles off at the mouth, says anything that just pops into his dashboard on his brain. And he doesn't have to be a genius, like I said. As long as he's moral, that's the key. To be moral is probably more important than anything. To have a code of ethics and a standard of values, that is the key. That is the crux to being a man, to being a woman, to being a human being, is that you rely on your virtues. Zelensky don't want the war to end. Why is that, Texas? Please enlighten me.
This was done by a corrupt administration that shouldn't have been in, and frankly, if the right results of the election were given, if I were president, this war would have never taken place, and he would have been very happy because he would have liked to have seen. I mean, they went through hell. He went through hell. This war would have never happened, and the people that were killed, a couple of million people, a lot of people with soldiers and everything else, and the people that have been displaced and forced into other areas and other countries because of what's happened, none of that would have happened. And I'm just saying that he was a horrible president, whether it was the borders or this. He was just a horrible, corrupt president.
Mr. President, you want to? I can. Thank you so much. So first of all, we have possibility now to buy weapons from the United States. We are thankful for this program and this opportunity. We are thankful for Europe. They pay for this. And through NATO program, for example, Pearl and etc., we have some programs where we can have some money to finance this. And this is a part, I think. It's not a part for the war and to defend us. It also will be a part for security guarantees, to strengthen our army, to rearm Ukrainian army. This is very, very important. And it depends how much money we need to rearm. For example, the question of air defense, we spoke about it with President Trump, and I'm happy that we have now bilateral decisions and we work on it with production, American production. Nobody in Europe has so many air defense like Patriots, for example. We need it very much, and this is also about defending.
I think the good news, we make the best military equipment in the world by far. You mentioned the Patriots. How good are they?
Systems.
We have systems, they're literally 100% foolproof. And it's really like shooting two bullets, two bullets hitting each other in the air in a space like this. The chances, 100%. It's 99 to 100%. So we sell the equipment to NATO. And NATO does what, I don't know what the arrangement is that you have with, but I know that they want you to have the equipment. And we're getting the best equipment in the world, but they pay us for the equipment. Under Biden, it was just crazy what was going on. I believe the number is over 300. I think it could be $350 billion worth of equipment and money and everything else. And we've made more progress in settling this war in the last 2 months than they made in 4 years. This should have been settled a long time ago, but it should have never happened. Yeah, please.
Real quickly, you pushed out on social media.
All right, Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you expand on that and how important
Well, that's a very off topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses it. Because
I'm stopping right there. Mail-in ballots are the truth. I don't understand what he's saying. I had a mail-in ballot in 2012. I voted for Mitt Romney. I was in the psych ward. I was in the loony bin, the cuckoo's nest, the puzzle factory, the funny farm, whatever you want to call it. I was in there, and all I needed was a pin. I just bubbled in, who I wanted, why I wanted. It was cool. Made sense to me. I mean, what is he's saying? It's inefficient and everything. What is that? How so? Prove it. Give me details. Give me specific instances where mail voting for via mail was a detriment. I think it's a great benefit. That's just me. Let's continue.
Because of what's happened, massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change are the machines. For all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster results. The machines, they say we're going to have the results in 2 weeks. With paper ballots, you have the results that night. Most people, many countries use paper ballots. It's the most secure form. So between paper ballots, very, very important, paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it. Because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed like all the people you've been watching get so badly hurt. I'm glad. I hate to take your time with this, but I'm glad you asked me that question. We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt. When you go to a voting booth and you do it the right way and you go to a state that runs it properly, you go in. They even ask me. They asked me for my license plate, for identity. I said, I don't know if I have it. They said, sir, you have to have it. I was very impressed, actually. But it's very hard to cheat with mail-in voting. As you know what happens in California, it's so corrupt, where some people get 5, 6, 7 ballots delivered to them. Now, we got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it. because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things. Otherwise, you don't have. We have strong borders now. In 90 days, Mr. President, we didn't have 1, 0, 0, and 3 months. Not one person came in illegally into our country. In fact, even I find that hard to believe, but it's run by a little bit of a liberal group that put out the numbers, so I guess it's, but 0, 0, and 0. You go back a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 millions of people poured into our country. It was terrible. Thank you very much.
What security guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything. Really, it includes two parts. First, strong Ukrainian army. That's what I began to discuss.
Hold on. We got a guest in the house, another guest. Mr. Robert Naser. He says 3.5 more years of Prezi McBankruptcy. Call me Britt Van Winkle and put me to bed until January 20th, 2029. We're looking for that, Mr. Naser, Rob, Bob. I don't know what to call you, but we're looking for it. We're looking forward to it, and we're just gonna see if there's some kind of maneuver. It's almost like a football game, you know. At the end zone, what is he gonna do? What kind of lob is he gonna do for? What the quarterback is going to do? Is he going to get to the wide receiver? Is he going to do the ground game? He's going to do air. Trump is a weaselly, squeaky, dirty kind of person who hates himself. You have to realize that he hates himself. Donald Trump hates Donald Trump. If he loved himself, if he was rational, he would not have anything to do with destroying people's lives, being, damaging, being very malicious. Sky's a lib. Well, I'm not. And lib is short for liberal. And liberal is too good of a word to call, people that are in that camp. They're really just leftists. People on the right it sounds weirder. No, you don't use it as much, but rightists. The conservatives, the names are too good for them. Liberal, of course, derived from the word liberty, freedom, and what is conservative? What are they conserving? They're conserving freedom. They're conserving liberty. So they're two sides of the same coin, really. I say a pox on both their houses, like Dr. Jerome Brooks says. They're almost reading from the same page, and like an ad lib, like they're doing an ad lib puzzle. They're putting in different words. One to say one, and a Democrat say this. And a Republican say this. A liberal will say this. A conservative will say this. No, it does not, Rick James. What are you talking about? Let's see. Y'all notice Zelensky came dressed better this time. Well, it doesn't matter. It's fine that he is. It's great, but it's still not a traditional. It's not like he's sitting up there with a traditional suit. Those are just trousers and looks like a jacket and a shirt. Is that a tie? I don't even know if that's a tie. I don't even know if he's wearing a tie. It's buttoned up. It might be a tie. Zelensky always looks great. Honey. All right. Conservative derives from Confederate flag. No, it does not, Rick James. It derives from conserve or to preserve or keep. Bob Naser, he says, Hola, like Gloria Gaynor, I will survive, but there's going to be a hell of a lot to recover from. And that's if the opposition can achieve some small victories. Until then, I would agree. That's why you have to be objective. I have people in my family, it's like, Trump can do no right. He can't do anything right. Most of the things he does are wrong, but sometimes he gets it right. Sometimes he does get it right. No, we're blind. Zelensky gets a lot of cat meow. Okay. You go, girl. But yeah, so I like what Bob was saying. He says, if the opposition can achieve some small victories until then, some small, he put it in capital letters, some small, all caps, some. That's the reality. I mean, what did he do with Iran? That's good. It wasn't as great. He should have got, approval by Congress, but I guess when you're president, is it like a politeness thing? Is it like a courtesy? Because he did it anyway. He didn't. It wasn't like anybody stopped him. We had to. What do you just ask Congress as a courtesy? They weren't. They're blindsided. I don't know. Texas says yes. It matter. He don't need to disrespect White House. Sky, you heathen. Yes, I'm a heathen. I'm an atheist. I'm a heretic. I always forget let me make sure I said that right. Words just come to my mind. I say them. Oh yeah. Anyone who does not conform to an established attitude, doctrine, or principle. I take that as the third entry in the dictionary. So I'm gonna finish out the video, then I'm gonna call it a day.
With your colleagues, and it's a lot about weapon and people and training missions and intelligence. And second, we will discuss with our partners. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends.
And Mr. President, are you willing to commit American troops to that NATO-like protection in order to get President Zelensky to a deal today?
Well, I don't know if you define it that way, but NATO-like, I mean, we have people waiting in another room right now. They're all here from Europe, biggest people in Europe, and they want to give protection. They feel very strongly about it, and we'll help them out with that. I think it's very important. I think it's very important to get the deal done.
You've been involved with the peacekeeping in Ukraine since your first day of the administration. What would you say to the Ukrainian people right now who are suffering under the Russian attacks and hoping that the American people will stand with them?
Well, I know Ukrainian people. I've known many over the years. They're great people. They're smart. They're energetic. They love their country. I mean, they love their country, and we want to get this war ended. That's all I can do. I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped. Very important.
Mr. President, was there any aspect of your
hippie Trump? I love them all. I love Russians. I love Ukrainians. I love them all. I love everybody. Hippie Trump. I mean, like I said, there are people within Russia that don't want this war to continue, that love America, that have always done that. It's just like Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand loved America. She was not a Russian. She might have been Russian by birth, but her ideals and her values were all westernized, and specifically into the political document of the Declaration of Independence in the United States of America. That's who she was. And there must be at least one, someone, there's not another Ayn Rand, but there's someone akin to what she was like when she was growing up in Russia. So I say, I still say I'm circling back. Give pamphlet, I don't know if pamphlets of it, but text messages saying, something's about to happen on blank date, and you might want to get out, start, packing up your things, start moving out of your dwelling place, and then just bomb the Kremlin, just bomb the president's quarters and all of that. Bomb the whole place, Red Square, all of it. Just completely demolish it. That's just me, though. All right, let's last few moments of this video.
A discussion with Vladimir Putin that left you disappointed?
Look, we just spoke to, I was just telling the president, I just spoke to President Putin indirectly, and we're going to have a phone call right after these meetings today. And we may or may not have a trilat. If we don't have a trilat, then the fighting continues. And if we do, we have a good chance. I think if we have a trilat, there's a good chance of maybe ending it. But he's expecting my call when we're finished with this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's go right on top of you.
I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of press conferences and stuff like that. When all the journalists like rush, hey, Mr. President, do you think and he just picks one person out of like 20 or 30 that want to know. They got their iPhones out, they got their Samsung Galaxy out. They got the little boom with the fur, it looks like furry on attached to the microphone. That's funny. That always check me up. That always trip me up. But hey, it's a little over an hour. I appreciate everybody that came in. Thank you very much. Let me get my sponsors. Gotta do the sponsors. Visit .focus on _ on his YouTube channel and subscribe, like, and comment. If you enjoy Call of Duty and other first-person shooters, that's the ones, you put the scopes on them, you get that pink mist. You will not be disappointed. Tell them that Silly Sky sent you. Also, visit LifeStrongApparel.com, LifeStrongApparel.com for your raw CMOS needs. Also, after making your selections, type in Skyler20, SKYLER20, as a promo to receive 20% off your purchases. Tell Mr. Peng Silly Sky sent you. Also, never met him, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Behad Jackson. Visit his YouTube page and subscribe to learn more about sardines on the grill, fried chicken, near beer, and adult female strippers. Tell him Silly Sky sent you in the comments. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much again for riding with me, and I will see you sometime in the morning tomorrow. Take care.